I love all the turkey that we get during the holidays, but even with my household of 8, we can't finish off all of the turkey in one meal. And we don't always want to eat it all week long. So one of the things I like to do is can it up, which then makes for a really convenient meal later because it's all diced and in my jars and ready for me to make soup with or turkey tetrazzini or any number of things. The first thing I need to do is dice my turkey into 1-inch squares. And I did want to point out that my turkey is actually still hot. If it wasn't, then when I cut it into those squares, I would need to cook it on the sides just in case. So then I just cut it into those 1-inch squares and put it directly into my jar. This actually is a really easy recipe to do. And I want to stop at, about 1 inch of headspace. I really like canning the turkey because the turkey breast can be just a little bit dry, and some of the people in my family have trouble with that. I actually like the white meat, but they like it to be a little bit more moist, and that's one thing that pressure canning does do to it. Once you get to the smaller pieces of meat, a lot of times you don't even have to cut them. It just depends on what size they are. Then all I do is add 1 teaspoon of salt to each quart-sized jar. This is an optional step. If you are, say, on a low-sodium diet, you don't have to do it. It just makes it taste a little better. I then add hot water up to 1 inch of headspace. Headspace is the space from the top of the food to the top of the jar. Then I use a wooden chopstick to debubble my jars. I just run this down along the edges and a little bit in the middle too, so that if there's any trapped air in there, it'll come out. I then just go through and fine tune my headspace. Sometimes when you get the bubbles out, it creates just a little more space at the top. Then I'll use a clean damp cloth to clean off the rim of the jar. This just makes it so that if anything got on the rim, it won't interfere with the seal. And then I put my lids and rings on until they're fingertip tight. To prepare my pressure canner, I'll add in 3 quarts of hot water. I'll then place in my jars of turkey. I ended up with 5 of them today, which is kind of a good thing because in order to have safe canning, I need to have at least 2 quarts and 4 pints. I'll then place on my lid and seal it. I'll then place this on the stove on high heat until it starts to steam out of the vent in the back. I'll process this for 90 minutes at 10 pounds of pressure. If at sea level, I'm at 1,200 feet, so it'll be 11 pounds of pressure. Once it started to steam out of the back, I let it vent for 10 minutes and then placed the weight on it and got it up to just past 11 pounds of pressure because, of course, for me, being at 1,200 feet, I have to have it at a little higher pressure. But I try to keep it below that 15 pounds of pressure mark because once it gets above that, it tends to have a lot of leakage, and that's not really necessary. It's just too much pressure. But if for any reason it drops below the recommended amount of pressure, then I need to completely restart my 90-minute timer. So at this point, I have the 90 minutes going. Sorry I didn't get that on video. I was actually milking the cow and my son helped me out with that bit. So now I'll just continue to adjust the temperature up and down based on where I need that pressure to stay. Eventually you get so that you know your canner and you know your stove, and it makes it a little bit easier, but the first couple times that can be a little bit tedious. Now that the timer has gone off, I'll just turn off the heat and allow the pressure to come down naturally. I don't want to touch the weight or anything. I wait until both the pressure indicator and the dial gauge say that there's 0 pressure. Now that the gauge is at 0 and the pressure indicator is down, I'll remove the weight. And that's kind of a safety thing to take that off first because if there was any residual pressure there, then it would go out that valve at that point. And then I open it up with it going away from me. That just makes it so the steam will go away from me instead of right into my face if I lifted it up this way. And then I'll let this sit and cool for 10 minutes. I then remove the jars and place them on a heat-resistant surface about 1 to 2 inches apart. This just makes it so that they cool down a little bit faster. And then I'll allow them to rest for 24 hours. After that point, I'll be sure they're sealed, and I'll know that they are if the button is actually down in the middle, which it already is for all of these, so they're all sealed. If any of them didn't seal, I would put them in the refrigerator and use them right away. Otherwise, I would remove the ring, wash them with warm soapy water, and place them in a cool, dry, dark location like my pantry and use them in the next 1 to 3 years.